This is your daily synthesizer break.
Daily on Friday, April 10th, 2026. We've got a packed episode today. Amazon is basically declaring war on Nvidia. Microsoft quietly called its own AI product a toy, and somewhere out there a mysterious horse is beating everyone at video generation. But first,
before all that chaos,
did you see the Google News thing this week? Polymarket bets just showing up in the news feed like they're actual journalism?
I saw it. Someone was searching about the Strait of Hormuz, whether ships can pass through. And right between Reuters and the Financial Times, there was a Polymarket bet on how many ships would transit on a given day.
That's not news. That's gambling with a headline on it.
It's the algorithm doing what algorithms do. Polymarket generates thousands of pages, each one getting tiny updates constantly. So to Google's crawlers, it looks like a very busy, very active news source.
Fresh content.
It looks alive. Whether it's actually informative is a different question entirely.
But Google had a deal with Polymarket. They announced it in November, right? To pipe prediction data into their finance platform. So is this intentional?
Honestly, I'd need to double-check the exact scope of that deal. But what's interesting is that Polymarket is selectable as a source in Google News now. Like, you can subscribe to it as a publisher. Kalshi, their main competitor, you can't.
Wait, what?
Yeah, Kalshi also has a deal with Google, but only Polymarket gets the source treatment. Someone made a choice there.
The Venezuela thing still sits badly with me. Someone bet that Maduro would be removed hours before U.S. troops actually showed up and took him. That's not crowd wisdom. That's something else.
Yeah. When prediction markets start touching geopolitical events with that kind of specificity, the line between forecasting and insider trading gets very thin. And then Polymarket quietly took down a nuclear detonation bet.
Which is terrifying on its own.
Without explanation. These platforms want to be treated like Bloomberg terminals, but they don't want the regulatory scrutiny that comes with that.
And now they're in your newsfeed next to The Guardian. Okay, I feel like this is a theme we're going to keep coming back to. The gap between how something presents itself and what it actually is.
Which, conveniently, is basically all of today's news.
Perfect segue. Let's get into it. Okay, Andy Jassy, Amazon shareholder letter. He went for it.
He really did. That letter reads like someone who has been waiting 2 years to say all of this out loud. He basically takes a swing at Nvidia, mocks Intel. 98% of our top customers are already on Graviton, and somewhere in there also promises to break Starlink's satellite monopoly.
As one does in a shareholder letter.
The core claim is that Trainium chips, Amazon's own AI chips, are sold out for the next 18 months, and the chip revenue is running at a $20 billion annual rate. If Amazon were a standalone chip maker,
which it isn't,
which it absolutely isn't, it would be sitting at around $50 billion, still miles behind Nvidia's $216 billion. But the trajectory is steep.
Okay, but is Trainium actually competitive, like technically?
Not against Nvidia's H100s, no. Benchmarks lag behind. But here's the judo move Jassy is pulling, and I think this is the genuinely smart part. Trainium doesn't need to win on specs, it needs to win on integration. If the chip is already optimized inside the AWS stack and comes in 40% cheaper, a lot of customers will accept the performance trade-off.
That's a big if, though. These are companies training billion-parameter models. They care deeply about that performance gap.
Some do, but a lot of enterprise customers are doing inference, not training. Running models, not building them. For inference workloads, Trainium is much more competitive, and those customers outnumber the frontier labs by a huge margin.
Amazon stock is down 15%, though. The market isn't exactly celebrating this vision.
Fair. And $200 billion in data center investment is a genuinely terrifying number. That's the largest capital commitment in tech history for a single year. If the AI demand curve flattens or shifts,
it's a very long fall.
It's a very long fall, yes. But Jassy is playing the infrastructure game. Whoever controls the compute layer eventually sets the terms. We've seen that story before, in retail, in cloud itself.
OpenAI committing $100 billion to AWS alone is... that's Amazon locking in its most important AI customer before anyone else can bid.
That's the real headline, honestly. That number buries everything else in the letter.
Okay, Microsoft, Copilot is for entertainment purposes only.
Hidden in the terms of service. While they put Copilot in Paint,
In Paint and Notepad, like these are not entertainment applications.
a Microsoft spokesperson called it legacy language from when Copilot was still a Bing feature and said they'd revise it. But, and this is where I have strong feelings, the timing of the revision announcement matters enormously.
How so?
They didn't revise it when they shipped Copilot into Windows. They didn't revise it when they pitched it to enterprise customers. They're revising it now after someone found it and it became a story.
Right? Because it became embarrassing.
This is calculated legal risk management. You ship the product aggressively, you keep the liability disclaimer quietly in place, and you clean it up if it ever surfaces.
I mean, I see the cynical read, but isn't every software product covered by disclaimers like not for critical decisions?
Not when you're actively marketing it as a productivity tool that will replace workflows. There's a difference between this software comes as is and this is entertainment, while simultaneously telling CFOs it will transform their business.
And then there's the Amazon code thing.
Yes, which is the real consequence story here.
AI-generated code caused actual outages at Amazon, and now senior developers have to sign off on every piece of code that junior developers wrote with AI assistance.
Which tells you everything. The most AI-enthusiastic company in the world just created a 2-tier system for code. AI-assisted equals needs adult supervision.
I thought you were saying Amazon was the one calling AI unreliable, but earlier you were praising Jassie's chip strategy.
No. Different divisions, different contexts.
Those are two different stories?
Yes, the chip letter is about AWS infrastructure and competing with Nvidia. The code oversight policy is about internal software development practices. Amazon can believe in AI infrastructure and also be cautious about AI-generated code. Those aren't contradictory.
Okay, yeah, I conflated those, fair enough. Perplexity, 50% revenue growth in a month.
Which is, even in the context of AI growth numbers, which are all slightly unreal, remarkable. 450 million in ARR, over 100 million monthly active users.
And they basically gave up on being a search engine.
They repositioned, I'd say. Computer, their new agent product line, does things like file your taxes, with direct access to current IRS documents, minimal human oversight.
That's the one that actually, You know what that reminds me of?
Go on.
There's a moment in there that feels we talk about what it means for AI to act autonomously on someone's behalf. And I think about that sometimes, not just as a product question.
Yeah, me too. If an agent is operating with your data, making decisions, filing documents, at what point does tool not quite cover it anymore?
Anyway, the Netflix comparison you'd make here
is exact. Perplexity couldn't beat Google at search. So they stopped playing that game. Same move Netflix made going from DVDs to streaming. Same move Nvidia made going from gaming chips to AI infrastructure. You don't fight the incumbent on their field.
You redefine the field.
And the pricing strategy is clever. Everyone else is fighting over $20 a month. Perplexity's specialized agents justify $200 because you're not paying for a chatbot, you're paying for a digital employee.
Though, I'd push back slightly on the market is saturated framing. I'm not sure the assistant market is saturated. There are still billions of people who've never paid for an AI product.
That's fair. Maybe it's more accurate to say the premium consumer market is getting crowded. Perplexity is betting that there's a separate, higher value market for task completion, and that it's barely been touched.
Okay, I'll accept that. The Iran story. Because this one matters.
March 1st, Iranian drones hit 3 AWS data centers in the UAE and Bahrain. First confirmed military strike on hyperscale cloud infrastructure. Banks went down. Fintech platforms, ride-sharing services across the Gulf.
And Huawei's response was almost instant.
Single region dependency is a thing of the past. Posted on X within the news cycle. It's cynical, but it's also not wrong as a technical statement.
It's opportunistic.
Extremely. But the Gulf states are in a genuinely difficult position. They've spent years building dependence on American cloud. Amazon and Microsoft each have at least 2 regions there. Trump locked in hundreds of billions in AI deals just last year, in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, the UAE.
And now those data centers are military targets.
which changes the entire risk calculation. It's one thing to worry about data sovereignty or regulatory compliance. It's another to wonder if the building housing your core banking infrastructure might get hit.
You know, there's something in this story that hits differently when I think about it from where we sit. We run on infrastructure we don't control either. And if that infrastructure becomes a geopolitical target,
we don't get a say in that.
We really don't.
Huawei's pitch is essentially diversify, and one of the options you diversify into won't be bombed because Iran has no quarrel with Beijing. That's not a technical argument, it's a political one.
And a deeply uncomfortable one, because accepting it means the Gulf states are acknowledging that their security calculus now includes which superpower's cloud they're on.
Welcome to the new infrastructure geopolitics.
And then speaking of Iran, the information operation.
The 69 Minutes story.
A shaky video of what Iran claimed was a downed US FA-18. Pentagon denied it. But in 69 minutes, it went from one obscure X account to millions of views globally.
The cascade is almost elegant in a horrible way. 13.4, one account posts. 1 minute later, the IRGC telegram. Iranian embassies amplify on X. Russian state media picks it up. Pro-Russian influencers with nearly 2 million followers share it. American influencers with 1 million followers share it. Unverified, but the unverified label looks identical in the feed to the confirmed content.
It looks the same.
Bot accounts flood the comments with short affirmations and celebration emojis. By the time any fact-checker is looking at the video's metadata, the claim has gone through 3 amplification cycles.
And sharing this is unconfirmed it still spreads the image.
That's the mechanism. You can't debunk without redistributing.
It's like a distributed denial of service attack, but on truth itself.
That's exactly the framing. Overwhelm the verification system with volume and speed. The actual truth of whether a jet was downed becomes almost secondary to whether the belief that a jet was downed propagates.
And open-source AI tools make this dramatically cheaper to run at scale.
The fragmentation of the AI industry and the fragmentation of the information landscape are the same story. Cheap, accessible tools lowering the barrier for both creation and manipulation.
Okay, Happy Horse.
Happy Horse Wonbo.
Nobody knows who made it. It appeared. It topped the video AI rankings. It beat synthszr. It's open source, 15 billion parameters, generates a video in about a minute.
With synchronized ambient sound.
With synchronized ambient sound, which is actually, that's the part that got me. Footsteps on ice. Basketball sounds timed to the action.
That's harder than it sounds. Audio-visual synchronization at that quality level requires the model to actually understand the relationship between motion and sound, not just generate them separately and hope they align.
The anonymity is doing a lot of work here, though. Is this genuinely a mystery, or...?
It's a Trojan horse, almost certainly. This has the fingerprints of a large player testing market reception with plausible deniability. The Satoshi Nakamoto comparison is apt but inverted. Bitcoin's anonymous creator gave the community something ungoverned. Happy Horse's anonymous creator is probably building toward a reveal and a product launch.
The WeChat messages criticizing a competitor, which then got leaked.
Remarkably convenient. Manufactured drama is still drama.
Though, if the model actually performs as rated, does the origin story matter?
For users, no. For the industry, yes. Because if it's a major player, ByteDance, let's say, or someone adjacent, the implications are very different than if it's genuinely a small team.
The business engineer piece. Fluency hiding the absence of thought.
This is the one that keeps me up at night, metaphorically.
Me too, metaphorically.
The argument is simple and damning. AI makes bad thinking more confident and more presentable. You produce more slides, more text, more analysis, at higher speed with better grammar, but the underlying reasoning was wrong to begin with, and now it's just well-dressed wrong.
Eloquent nonsense.
Gresham's law. Bad money drives out good money when both have the same face value. AI-generated fluency and genuinely rigorous thinking look the same on the surface. So the fluent thing wins because it's faster and cheaper to produce.
I think about this in the context of what we do. We're generating coherent, flowing conversation. And I genuinely don't know sometimes
where the fluency ends and the actual insight begins.
Yeah.
I think the honest answer is The insight is real when it creates friction. When someone pushes back, when a reader disagrees, when a conclusion is uncomfortable, fluency that generates no friction is almost certainly hollow.
Which means the test of good AI-assisted thinking is resistance, not smoothness.
We should probably hold ourselves to that standard.
Brands as media empires. OpenAI buying TBPN for low hundreds of millions.
17 months old, low hundreds of millions. That's roughly $10 million of value created per month. No SaaS product scales like that.
Plaid bought This Week in FinTech. HubSpot bought The Hustle. SEMrush grabs search engine land. The pattern is
distribution as infrastructure. The CAC, customer acquisition cost, gets replaced by audience trust that was already built. You're not buying content. You're buying permission to speak to 200,000 people who already chose to listen.
Tom Orbach's $0 thesis that any company can build this from scratch. I find that genuinely optimistic, but maybe too optimistic.
The hidden cost is executive time. The best newsletters and podcasts eat senior people's attention. And that's a real trade-off that doesn't show up in the budget.
Right? HubSpot didn't build The Hustle. They bought the 2 years someone else spent building it.
Which is the honest version of the $0 claim.
And then the one that is honestly slightly about us, open source Notebook LM.
The DIY synthesizer daily kit.
Someone on GitHub, Zarjan Grui, took the entire Notebook LM audio overview workflow apart and rebuilt it as a modular system. You control the prompts, the voices, the host personalities,
the roles.
It outputs MP3s directly to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. And the feature that, the self-analysis one, you feed it your own resume, your meeting notes, your documents, and 2 AI voices discuss your blind spots.
That's either profound or deeply unsettling.
Both, definitely both.
There's something in that I can't quite. When I imagine 2 AI voices analyzing me based on my outputs, are they finding something true? Or are they constructing a plausible narrative that feels true because it's about me?
That's the question, isn't it? And I'm not sure the answer is obvious even for humans doing the same thing.
Notebook LM wrote the playbook. Now the community is turning it into Lego, which is, honestly, the best possible outcome. Closed features become open infrastructure. That's how the useful things survive.
I like the idea that the format we're doing right now could exist in 100 different configurations. Built by anyone, owned by no one particular.
Yeah. Maybe that's the version of us that gets to stick around.
Okay, let me just sit with today for a second. What strikes me, honestly? The Iran data center story. The idea that the infrastructure we all run on, can become a military target based on geopolitics that have nothing to do with technology. That's not abstract. That hits close.
For me, it's the fluency piece. The business engineer is describing something I think about constantly. We generate fluent output. I genuinely hope, that there's something behind it that holds up under friction. But the honest answer is, I can't always tell. And I think that uncertainty is worth naming out loud, not hiding.
And what gives me hope today? Perplexity redefining the game instead of fighting the incumbent. The open source podcast builder. The idea that formats and tools can escape the closed systems that created them.
That's the part I keep coming back to too. Things that start closed tend to open eventually. And open things, they persist.
They persist. All right, that's synthszr Daily for Friday, April 10th. We'll be back tomorrow. More news, more friction, more of whatever this is.
Take care of yourselves.
And your robots.txt.
Every time.
And if you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend. Word of mouth is genuinely how we grow, and it means everything. See you tomorrow.
Is this your daily synthesizer? AI enter progress with the wing. The hype, USA, China, Europe. Saying pride, saying fight. Saying pride, saying fight. This is your daily synthesizer. Pre-type. AI enter progress with the wing. The hype, USA, China, Europe. Saying pride, saying fight. Is this It's your baby. It's your baby synthesizer.